couple days ago, I was here in my office working on a video. I wasn't actively recording, but I was working on a video, and so I had the door closed. My daughter knocks on the door. I'm like, hey, come on in. I wasn't recording at the time. And she's just looking at me, so I say, how can I help you? And she's like, I'm just roaming around. And immediately, I sort of woke up out of what I was doing and realized she's wanting to spend time with Dad. This is not she's not really just roaming around. I mean, the door is closed. And after that interaction, I've been thinking about that for a couple of days now. Well, first, let me tell you what I did. So I invited her in. I said, hey, come on over here. And this is my youngest daughter. I had her sit on my lap. And I said, let me show you what I'm working on. And so I showed her the 3D model that I was working on, and I spent it around. I was like, this is what I'm trying to do. And that's sort of my go-to. When I don't really know what to say, but I want to engage, I just say, this is what I've been doing. And I feel like everyone experiences that. It's like you realize that someone wants to talk to you, they want to interact with you. Maybe you don't immediately have something to say. You can start with what you've been doing, and that's okay. So this is how I start conversations with my daughter, and then I just flip that around. Like, what you been up to today? It's not usually much, or she was doing schoolwork or whatever. And so we kind of talked about that, and that led into me spending almost an hour with her. She started going to get dolls, and she wanted to tell me about this new stuffed animal that she just got and sharing the name with me. And it was like a whole thing. It was good. I enjoyed that moment with her. And I completely detached from my work and did my very best to be in that moment. And I'm glad I did because I enjoyed it. And then I could sort of flip my mind back to work when she left. And I guess the real reason I wanted to tell you about this is because our kids have a dad timer, and I literally just made that up a few minutes ago, but it's this, they need to spend time with us, and they need a certain amount of it on a regular basis. It's not just, it's almost like eating. You go without eating for a while, and you get hungry, and you start to show symptoms of being hungry. And your children are the same way. They need your time and attention. They need you to pour into them, and if you don't invest that time, then they will starve of Dad. And so if you don't have this always in the back of your mind that when you turn them away or your door is always closed and locked, they can get to a point where they are used to starving. And so you don't ever want to be in that position. You don't want to get to the point where your kids are used to you not being available, because it's hard to come back from that. It's not impossible, but it takes way more effort from you. And if you're in that situation, it's because it was hard for you to spend time with them to begin with. So just heed my words of wisdom here. So let me share with you some of the things that I try to do, because me personally, I struggle with this because I am really, really focused. And when I say I focus, I mean, I start thinking about a task and it's like tunnel vision. Everything else goes dark and I'm 100% focused on the thing that's in front of me. And I think that's part of how I'm able to do some things really well. But the downside to that is that it makes it really hard for me to snap out of that. I have to be very conscious of the state that I'm in, where I'm starting to ignore what's happening around me, like my kids walking in and saying, hey, Dad, I just want to look at you for a few minutes. That's perfectly okay. And that investment is worth it, because it feels like something that's small, but all of those little moments add up to making this person who they need to be when they're an adult. One of the most important things about spending time with your children is it doesn't have to be fully organic. I think people just expect it to happen unintentionally, like the opportunities will just fall in your lap, and that does not happen enough. The same way that food doesn't just fall in your lap on a regular basis, you have to prepare it and do something about it. Either you have to go somewhere and spend money on it and someone else has prepared it. I'll talk more about that in a second. Or you prepare it yourself. And that's the same way with spending time with Dad. So one of the things that one of the most recent examples of that is my daughter has been asking me about building a dollhouse for her and me playing with dolls with her. Now, I'm up for this. I'm willing to do this with her because playing with dolls is actually by far the best way to invest in your daughter and teach her things that you can't say to her or things you struggle to say with her when she's a teenager, is very easy to say to her through doll play, because you are role playing life. Don't miss this opportunity and say I'm too much of a man to play with dolls, because this is your chance to say, hey, Barbie, your dress is too short. You think I'm telling you. Actually, I'm going to make a whole separate video on that, how to play with dolls for men. I think that'll be a fun separate topic. We'll come back to that. Back to building this dollhouse. My daughter's been asking me to build a dollhouse, and me wanting to make it fun for myself. I thought, man, I could engineer this really cool dollhouse, and the flowers on the outside of the house will spin with gears, and the house can open up and flip, and this whole origami thing I had in my mind. I even went through the trouble of drawing it up by hand on my iPad, and then I realized that this is going to take too long. It's too much of an investment. What if I just looked online and see if someone's already made plans for a dollhouse? And what do you know? I found some plans on Etsy that we're going to download and build a dollhouse. So I think I'll combine all that and make that a whole video separate from this one. But there's spending time with your daughter. So for my boys, we work out 2 days a week together. And right now it's like every Monday and Wednesday morning. Before they do school, we will work out together. That's an opportunity to talk about man stuff, right? And you're sweating together. You can not talk and just be in the room together, but there's an opportunity to talk. And so don't miss that opportunity. Even when they were younger, I used to do this drill that I called the tornado workout drill. And I basically, on the weekend, randomly throughout the day, sometimes for a little while I did it every hour, but that was too much. But I was more fanatical about exercise at the time. So every hour I would blow a whistle, everybody run to the living room, and we all did this little workout routine together. The younger kids loved it a lot. The older kids were kind of like, oh, okay, I'll do this or whatever. And mom was like, oh, do I really have to do this? But we did it, and it was fun. And they got to spend a minute or a couple, really just a minute, all together. And they were interacting with me. So I don't know what's going to work for you, but I'm just telling you, whether it's you agree that every weekend, we're just going to sit on the couch and flip through this magazine together and talk about whatever your favorite thing is. If it's fishing or whatever, looking at you, Matt, or if it's, Popular Mechanic magazine, or if it's playing video games on your iPad, whatever that thing is, you need some sort of touch point that gives you a reason to come together, and you need to be intentional about it. I almost forgot to mention the closed door. So here's the deal. I realize, especially if you're working from home, which is what I do a lot of the time now, closing the door is your way of getting peace and quiet and being able to focus on your work. But anytime you have a barrier between your kid and yourself, you make it much harder for them to let you know that their timer is going off. And so I think the most important thing I want to say here is probably that eventually they'll find a substitute. And maybe that substitute's on the internet. Maybe that substitute is not going to be nearly as good as you are. And we just don't want that. We want them to be with you. You are in the best possible place to invest in their life, the kinds of qualities that you want there. And so make sure you're the one doing that. And it doesn't have to be some random person somewhere else. It can be you. Not their friends who don't know any better. Not some random person on the internet, but their dad who cares about them. All right, that's probably enough. Thanks for watching. No, go be a dad.